What's happening, everybody? Trey here, and today at Reactions to the Classics, it is time for a reaction to the top 10 songs of the folk group Peter, Paul, and Mary. And I want to shout out our longtime friend and patron of the channel, D, for submitting this list for us to go over today. Such a legendary group that I don't believe we have covered at all on the channel yet, so this is long overdue, and some great backstory on a lot of these tunes as well. And for a group I'm not, I'm familiar with the name and a couple of the songs, but besides that, it's going to be a fun time going through these classic tunes and dissecting them, the lyrics, and just enjoying some classic tunes right here. So I want to shout out D again for submitting this list. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let us get into the quick facts. D always does some great write-ups of the group and of the songs in general. So let's just kick this thing off. So D notes, there was a folk music revival that started in the 50s, led by the quartet known as the Weavers. In 1961, Bob Dylan's manager, if you've ever heard of that guy, Albert Grossman, wanted to put together a folk trio in that tradition. He also managed Peter Yarrow, who had been working the New York folk houses for a while. You had Mary Travers working in a group known as the Song Swappers, who had been singing backup for the legendary Pete Seeger, among other things. He put the two of them together, but they had difficulty finding the right sound. Grossman then introduced them to Noel Paul Stookey. His voice was the perfect piece that made their sound blend beautifully. They were an immediate success. Their self-named first album went to #1 in Billboard in 1962 for 7 weeks, and widely enough, it remained in the top 10 for 10 months. Next year, in 1963, they released probably their most iconic tune, Puff the Magic Dragon, which reached #2 on Billboard and was very controversial. Many people, of course, thought it was about drugs, but it was a song about the loss of childhood innocence. In August of that year, they performed If I Had a Hammer and Blowin in the Wind at the March on Washington, D.C., which featured the great MLK I Have a Dream speech. And the release of Bob Dylan's Don't Think Twice, It's Alright helped Dylan's album The Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, which was released 4 months earlier, rise into the top 30. So a lot of legendary stories just already off the bat here. They continued to release singles and records throughout the 60s. The decade was a constant stream of touring and recording. In 1970, they decided they needed to take a little bit of a break and pursue some solo careers with limited success. Perhaps the most successful song during those years was Stookey's track, the wedding song There Is Love, which reached 24 on the Billboard chart in 1971. The sheet music for it was the bestseller for a number of years. It became one of the more popular songs sung at weddings. He claimed he wrote it through divine intervention and assigned the copyright of the song to the Public Domain Foundation, where it has generated an astounding $1.5 million worldwide for charity. He has never taken a dime from its proceeds. We'll shout out to Noel right there for doing that, man. Much respect. They decided to reform in 1978 for a reunion tour, which was so popular they decided to keep on touring and release music together again. Only 2 of their albums charted and neither rose above 106 on the chart, but they did have a steady group of fans who continued to buy their music and attend their concerts. They were known for their children's and holiday concerts, and they also did a great deal of charity and political work over the years. They continued all the way up into 2009. Mary Travers contracted leukemia, unfortunately, in 2004. While she recovered via a marrow transplant the following year, her health soon began to decline, and she passed away in September of 2009. Peter Yarrow and Noel Paul Stookey make rare public appearances, but do not perform together. D also notes, as a bit of a preface to this list, there are many other songs that deserve to be here. I try to show a mix of joy, sorrow, and activism. There are many other songs that show that. They never quit singing out for justice. Their last record in 2004, In These Times, had many songs that fall into that category. I did not include any here, but it is well worth a listen for those who enjoy their music. And I'll just say on my end, man, much respect to all our patrons who curate these lists, because it is not an easy task to narrow, especially a group like Peter, Paul, and Mary, who has such a wide catalog. Narrowing that down to just 10 tracks and deciding the different types of moods and subject matters, it's a tough task. So keep that in mind as we go through here. But I'm looking forward to this list. That was a great primer for us all here. So why don't we kick this off? As always, I'm going to have the lyrics up, especially for Peter, Paul, and Mary, man. man, where the lyricism is so important. Gonna be enjoying that. And if this gets copywritten, there will be a link in the description to Vimeo where you can see the full video without copyright. YouTube's, always up and down on that. Sometimes they let stuff through, sometimes they don't. But enough talk, man. Let's jump into this list as we start at number 10 with Lemon Tree from that self-titled record all the way back in 1962. Denoted, this was their first single, written by Will Holt and is derived from a Brazilian folk song. Went to 35 on Billboard. Not bad for your first single, if I do say so myself. So let's cue this one up. Thanks again to D. I'm ready. Right, starting this off beautifully with Lemon Tree. Both, we'll start musically. Obviously, as I'm expecting with a lot of these tunes, as you get, especially in 60s folk music, with just the acoustic guitar kind of being the driving force there instrumentally. I thought the harmonies worked very well, whereas, Peter and Noel have those different registers in their voice, which make for a nice contrast. And then, of course, you throw in Mary's beautiful voice and at the same time, and it makes for a very unique harmony that I'm sure I'll be harping on throughout this list, man, because it was very strong here as well. And it's kind of neat with three different people in the group that all have great voices. As soon as one kind of trails off in the verse or what have you, then the other can pick it up, give it another burst of life, if you will. So just right off the bat, really enjoying that, not knowing much of Peter, Paul, and Mary's work. And the song itself was a wonderful story. We talk, the dude's young, he's just a lad of 10 years old, and his dad tells him, essentially, take a lesson from this lemon tree. Don't put your faith in love, my boy. I fear you'll find that love is like a lovely lemon tree. And then we get into the very beautiful chorus, a lemon tree very pretty, and the lemon flower is sweet, but the fruit of the poor lemon is impossible to eat. So again, here our main metaphor is love with the lemon. And then, you think it's going to work out. In the second verse, he finds his love. They actually lie under the lemon tree that, his father had told him about all those years ago. Everything's looking great. And then at the end, though, he notes, one day she left without a word. She took away the sun, and in the dark she left behind. I knew what she had done. She'd left me for another. It's a common tale, but true. A sadder man, but wiser now. I sing these words to you. And then he goes into those same words that his father told him all those years ago. And now he's got a bit of a wiser perspective around it. So great way to start this list off, man. If that's coming in at number 10, we're in for a treat. And number 9 on the list, going with El Salvador from No Easy Walk to Freedom in 1986. So a bit later, obviously, in their catalog here. So going from their first debut single to this is going to be an interesting contrast. Denoted, one of the criticisms of Peter, Paul, and Mary was their lyrics weren't as hard to direct as some other folk groups of the time. I've always thought that was nonsense. This is an example of direct social criticism of American government activities. There was a civil war in El Salvador during the 80s. The federal government supported to the tune of $1 to $2 million a day the El Salvadorian government, which was led by a military junta. There were numerous stories of human rights abuses by the junta, including the rape and murder of 4 nuns who were doing humanitarian work there. This and other similar stories led to Noel Paul Stookey writing this song. They received a lot of boos when performing this, especially after the audience heard the last line. And just a little extra on this, Noel wrote the track on Mother's Day in 1982, inspired by an article in a Roman Catholic magazine. Mary traveled to El Salvador in January of 83, actually, in the early years of the war, and subsequently was highly vocal in protest of the U.S. support of the terrorism, rapes, and murders, saying that as an American taxpayer, I'm paying these murderers salary. So, with that build up, I'm looking forward to this one. Wow, El Salvador coming in at number 9. What an in-your-face type of tune that there is no ambiguity here, which I like just how upfront the track was, and just the political nature of it, man. Even if you might disagree with this track, I don't personally, but even if you disagree, I think you got to just respect how out there Peter, Paul, and Mary were with this instrumentation, man. Especially at the start, gave a bit of that ocean, Caribbean type of feel to it. And we had that flamenco-esque guitar come in pretty strong as well, and that yet again, I think that El Salvador-esque type of a mood there, man. And I mean, obviously, the highlight here is the storytelling, is the description of El Salvador from the opening verses. Kind of a building the scene of El Salvador and the imagery of it before going into kind of the nitty gritty stuff about the rebels taking a bus on the Grand Highway. The government destroys a village miles away. The man on the radio says, "Now we'll play south of the border." That's kind of a motif that continued throughout the song. Whereas, later in the track where, people are dying and over the public PA, south of the border's playing. He notes about the TV crew from ABC calling murdered children the tragedy of El Salvador. Before the government cameras 20 feet away, another man is asking for continued aid, food and medicine, and hand grenades for El Salvador. And, I don't know much about this because, America's been in so many of these, types of situations where they support different regimes like this that it's tough to keep track, to be honest with you. But I think this can be applied to so many different situations that it actually has a lot of power even in 2021. So that's yet again, I think, a highlight of great songwriters, is how their tunes can have legs, so to speak, throughout the decades, even if it's written for something so specific as this, man. And at the end, they'll continue training troops in the USA and watch the nuns that got away and teach the military bands to play south of the border, yet again, that popping up, and kill the people to set them free. Who puts this price on their liberty? Don't you think it's time to leave El Salvador? And I guess that's what got them booed at concerts. When people don't like when you question the good old U.S. of A. military, but hey, man, sometimes these questions got to be brought up. So great track right there too. A totally different side of them. And now we're going to number 8 here. Where Have All the Flowers Gone? Going back to that self-titled record from '62. And D notes, Peter, Paul, and Mary wrote a great deal of the songs they performed. They also performed traditional folk songs and ones written by their contemporaries and mentors. This is an anti-war song originally written by, yet again, the great Pete Seeger. Their arrangement brought it to prominence on their first record. Expert example in songwriting here, so shout out to Seeger for originally penning this. And then I think here you really were able to highlight how gorgeous the harmonies were between these three, man. How intricate they were as well. I just thought the arrangement of this just, knocked it out of the park. The guitar was, yet again, very beautiful. That melody just so soft. And and I really just loved how the song was structured. So we start with Where Have All the Flowers Gone? Long time passing, long time ago. Where have all the flowers gone? Then we get the answer in each verse, kind of in the middle. Young girls have picked them, everyone. And then it says, oh, when will they ever learn? We get that refrain at the end. So then we pick up with what our answer was in the next verse. So then it's like, where have all the young girls gone? They gone for husbands, everyone. And then it, just continues on for there. The husbands, they're gone for soldiers. The soldiers are gone for the graveyards, which is kind of a powerful line there. And then it all works full circle. Where have all the graveyards gone? They gone to flowers, everyone. Oh, when will they ever learn? And then, we get back to what the first verse was. Where have all the flowers gone? Well, it's the young girls that have picked them. And so it's just that cycle that I thought was just really well done there. You had Peter in the left headphone, or my left headphone, being able to showcase and harmonize quite well with Paul, who's in that deeper type of a baritone like register, and then Mary just crushed her vocal performance on that. So gotta give the heart to that tune, man. I thought that was fantastic. And speaking of fantastic, ladies and gentlemen, number 7, the only song on this list that I know. It's time to puff the magic dragon as we get up here to number 7. D noted this was very controversial when it was released in '63. It was criticized as a pro-drug song, of course. It is really about the loss of childhood innocence, though, and even despite the controversy, it went to 2 on Billboard. Notice the finger-picking style. Was this where Donovan learned the claw hammer style he taught John Lennon over in India, a few years later? Who knows? But it's an interesting thought to ponder, man. This came out in '63, by the way. And the lyrics are based on a '59 poem by Leonard Lipton, then a 19-year-old Cornell University student. Lipton was inspired by an Ogden Nash poem titled Custer the Dragon, about a Trulio little pet dragon. The lyrics tell a story of the ageless dragon Puff and his playmate Jackie Paper, a little boy who grows up and loses interest in the imaginary adventures of childhood and leaves Puff to be with himself. The story of the song takes place by the sea in the fictional land of Hona Lee. Lipton was friends with Yarrow's housemate when they were all students at Cornell. Ah, look at that. It all comes together. He used Yarrow's typewriter to get the poem out of his head. He then forgot about it until years later when a friend called and told him Yarrow was looking for him to give him credit for the lyrics. On making contact, Yarrow gave Lipton half the songwriting credit, and he still gets royalties from this song. Man, I really respect that. It seems, that's the second story we've come across in here where, they're really focused on making sure the songwriting credits get to the right people, which obviously in the music industry isn't always the case. And a little current day tie-in: Elon Musk, founder of SpaceX and Tesla, said his Dragon spacecraft was named after this Puff the Magic Dragon song. So it's also used, kind of name drops in one of my favorite comedies of the 2000s, Meet the Parents. If you're familiar with that, Robert De Niro gives Ben Stiller a stern talking to about this, thinking that Ben's a pothead. So pretty funny there too. But let's get this one underway. All right, Puff the Magic Dragon, man. Everybody knows that chorus, but I've never really sat down and actually read the the full lyrics from start to finish as I'm listening along with it, man. And definitely a deeper story here than just that sing along chorus that we all know and love, man. Yet again, instrumentally, these melodies are very strong, and instrumentation just very simple with the bass, the acoustic guitar, and just the vocals, man. You don't need anything more than that for this. And again, very whimsical imagery at the start, describing Puff and his buddy, his buddy Jackie. And we get to the realities of life as he's growing up, man. He makes ways for those other toys. One gray night it happened, Jackie Paper came no more, and Puff, that mighty dragon, he ceased his fearless roar. And Puff's done, man. He's kind of sad. No longer went to play along the cherry lane. Without his lifelong friend, Puff could not be brave. So Puff, that mighty dragon, sadly slipped into his cave. Poor Puff, man. Shout out to Puff, man. I'd go and vibe with him. But I think that that sense of melancholy was felt that last couple of verses, and even that first chorus afterwards. It was a bit more subdued before the final chorus, kind of brought it back up in their, their peppiness and their voice, if you will. Just a classic tune that works on multiple levels, works as just being catchy just from that chorus alone. People can think what they want about it, or if we really dive deep into the lyrics, we see there's a very poignant story in there, man, about growing up, about the loss of innocence, loss of that childlike freedom, and just whimsical nature that life beats out of you. So, great tune right here. Can't have a Peter, Paul, and Mary top 10 without that track. And now we're going to move on to I Dig Rock and Roll Music. Here, coming in at number 6 from album 1700 from 1967. Dee said they were asked if this song derided the artist mentioned. They said no, it was a tease that mentioned the problem with getting meaningful lyrics on the radio. Peter and Mary strongly disliked the song, actually, and as a result, since the recording, they have refused to perform the song in concert, stating that the feedback noises could not be duplicated on stage. So, man, I'm yet again intrigued, so let's get this one underway. All right, I Dig Rock and Roll Music. Another very clever tune right here. I loved it through this list, man. We're seeing a bunch of different facets of the group. It's not all just, the traditional folk arrangements and, songs here. I think this was cool. Obviously, you get the name drop of the Mamas and the Papas in that first verse, man. And, it's just such a kind of interesting upbeat type of song, and yet he notes the message may not move me or mean a great deal to me, but hey, it feels so groovy to say I dig the mamas and the papas at the trip, and he describes that a little bit. Then we get into a bit of a psychedelic portion of the tune when we speak of Donovan and of course the Beatles, where you almost kind of have that call and response that the Beatles are so known for their early music, and saying they've got a word love to sell you. They mean exactly what they say. And then he finishes it out saying, I dig rock and roll music. I could really get in on that scene. I think I could say something if you know what I mean. But if I really say it, the radio won't play it unless I lay it between the lines. So some cheekiness there by by the group, kind of putting that in at the end, just taking those subtle shots of how, hey man, if these people are just writing these choruses that say 5 words in them and that's getting the radio airplay, how come the audiences aren't going to be as perceptive to maybe what we're bringing that's a bit more thoughtful, makes you kind of ponder those lyrics that are a bit more mature. So I could imagine that would have been a bit frustrating for them at this point, in their careers as we go into the late 60s. So a very interesting type of song, sounded totally unique from any of the others we had on this list, and I dug what they did instrumentally with some of those effects in there as well. And hey man, you can just point to that to be like, yeah, that's why we don't play this track. It's not due because we don't like it or anything. So now we're gonna move to the second half of the list as we go to number 5. Day is Done from Peter, Paul, and Mommy in 1969. Dee said this is a positive look at the future through a conversation between a father and his son. It has a lush production with the choir in the background and one of Peter's best vocal leads, and it was one of the anti-war protest songs of the Vietnam War era. Went to 21 on the Hot 100, was the last single they recorded together as a group. The next single, Leaving on a Jet Plane, released later that year, was recorded earlier in 67. According to Yarrow, this track was written from the perspective of his younger brother who faced the possibility of getting drafted into the Army. Yarrow performed it as the opening song at a concert during the anti-war march he helped organize in Washington in November of 1969. It became one of the well-known protest songs in the era. Yarrow said that the message of the song is that children will lead us to a better world, and this was nominated for a Grammy for Best Folk Performance, so a lot of acclaim for this one. Let's get after it. What a powerful tune. Just musically first, I think I'm going to echo what Dee said, and that Peter just was a fantastic on the vocals right here, very heartfelt, and I think the use of the choir in the chorus, or the just those children voices, yet again kind of drove that point home of as we're in that discussion between the father and the son here, that these kids singing this choir could very what world are we leaving them in a sense. And I mean, it won't be long before they too could get drafted, man. 18 years old, I'm 25 now. I couldn't imagine going off to war. And I mean, through World War 1 and 2 in Vietnam, you read of all these 18, 19-year-olds going over there, and just the harshest of conditions, man. It's quite remarkable to think about, and sobering, in many ways. And you get here, I think that at the start he says, "Tell me why you're crying, my son. I know you're frightened like everyone." That draft and just the war in general looming. I liked how the father was just so supportive throughout this track. "Will it help if I stay very near? I am here." And then that goes into the refrain. All will be well when the day is done. And now we kind of get into the father's perspective. He's sighing. He notes, "You shall inherit what mankind has done in a world filled with sorrow and woe. If you ask me why this is so, I really don't know." But then at the very end, the son's crying from the first verse changes to smiling, and the dad asks him why he's doing that. "Is there a secret you can tell everyone? Do you know more than men that are wise? Can you see what we all must disguise through your loving eyes?" Man, great set of lyrics right here, wonderful arrangement, and killer vocal performance here as well by Peter. Man, really enjoyed that one. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are to number 4. Mentioned it earlier, "Leaving on a Jet Plane." again from album 1700 that came out in 1967. This was written by John Denver before he became famous. It became their largest single, going all the way to number one in 1970, not too long before they split up. I know the John Denver version, but I've never heard this one. So let's get to it. Yet again, a very powerful tune. Whereas it's so different. Whereas Denver's version is a bit more poppy in that chorus, especially. I'm leaving on a jet plane. Like you can just recall that in your mind. Here, it's that sense of melancholy was felt throughout from the very start to the finish, and yet again tells a great story here of this person. Obviously leaving. All the bags are packed. Hate to wake you up to say goodbye, but the dawn is breaking in the early morn. The taxi's outside already. I'm so lonesome I could cry. So this is a recurring thing. Always having to go and travel. And then we get the great chorus. So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. Because I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back. Oh, baby, I hate to go. Song for long distance, relationship people, I'm sure, all over the world right here. And where we had, it's been a minute since we've had a Mary tune be the lead. Her voice is just a heavenly, man. And she crushed it with Peter and Paul kind of surrounding her for a little oomph, if you will, here and there throughout the track, man. And she notes too in this, there's so many times I've let you down, so many times I played around. I tell you now, they don't mean a thing. Every place I go, I'll think of you when I come back. I'll be wearing your wedding ring. And I've always found it a bit of a eerie coincidence, I guess, if you will, too, that this is one of Denver's biggest hits, and unfortunately he passed in a plane accident. So just one of those weird things that happens. But a great tune right here, and I thought Peter, Paul, and Mary really got to the heart of the track here. And now we're gonna move up. We're gonna stay with album 1700 as we go to our top three, ladies and gentlemen. This list is zooming on by, for me at least. We have The Great Mandela. D said The Great Mandela is the best anti-war song I have ever heard. Peter Yarrow's lyrics are on point and have a very strong viewpoint. It goes along with a beautiful melody, man. High praise right here from D, and without further ado, let's just get into this. What a powerful tune, man. I see the high praise now, D, that you were bringing this, because this is especially during the time this was written, man. I'm sure this irked some people off and inspired many others at the same time, man. Yet again, there's no real line in the sand on this one. We start off in that first verse. So I told him that he better shut his mouth and do his job like a man. So this is the dad talking to the son, who ultimately ends up dying here. And he answered, "Listen, father, I will never kill another." So pretty clear. No ambiguity right there. He notes that what the hell does he think he's doing to his father, who brought him up? Right. That's kind of our narrator, I guess, if you will. And then we get to the chorus: "Take your place on the great mandala. As it moves through your brief moment of time, win or lose now, you must choose now. And if you lose, you're only losing your life." So he's put then in jail, and it starts almost like a hunger strike, if you will. He is fasting till the killing's over. He's a martyr. He thinks he's a prophet, but then here again the narrator coming on strong. But he's a coward. He's just playing a game. He can't do it. He can't change it. It's been going on for 10,000 years. Of course, what's been going on? The killing, the war, the whole enterprise, if you will, man. And in that third verse, we get kind of a twist here in things where now the people are happy. Tell them they're safe. Hunger stopped him. He lies still in his cell, so he died. He and just so vivid, man. Death has gagged his accusations. We are free now. We can kill now. I just thought that was such a powerful line. Oh yeah, we're free now. We have the ability to go and take other people's lives without somebody bucking up against us. Essentially, we can hate now. Now we can end the world. We're not guilty. he was crazy. Isn't that how it always is? It's not me. It's him that was off, and it's been going on for 10,000 years. I just think that there's a lot of talking points. I'll just cue in on one that was standing out to me. The fact that this guy stood on his principles, stood for what he believed in, which was admirable, all the way even to death. And I always respect that point of view, and yet this man, did he really enact any change, or is this cycle of killing that's been going on since humanity has existed? Will it ever stop? The song, I think, kind of is a bit pessimistic in that regard, that this actually didn't really do much change or whatnot. But the fact of the matter is, man, you got to stand on your principles, whatever that might be, and no matter how many people, even your own family, might be coming against you, man. So I thought it was powerful. I thought it was great in its message of being anti-war. And fantastic vocal performances all the way around as well. And it's going to be tough to follow that one, man. But we have two great songs left as we go to number 2, If I Had a Hammer, from their self-titled record in '62. Dee said this was originally written, yet again, by Pete Seeger in 1949, rearranged by the group. A very popular song among groups working for social justice, became a top 10 hit, and won the Grammy Awards for Best Folk Recording and Best Performance by a Vocal Group. And so let's cue this one out. If I Had a Hammer, I know, a very famous tune, but I was not familiar with it as the song got going along. But yet again, loved the song writing structure that Seeger employed here, man. Starting off talking about, if I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, all over this land. Hammer out the danger, a warning. I'd hammer out love between my brothers and sisters, all over this land. And then, that repeats, though, with the bell, and then talking about if I had a song. And then it all comes together in that final verse. And I mean, there are a lot of lyrics packed into a 2-minute track, man. And I thought that yet again, those tri-harmonies between Peter, Paul, and Mary just never get old. And we're on a wonderful display here. One of the best harmonies, I think, on this list up to this point, which, is probably one of the reasons it's up this high at number 2 here. And now we note in the last verse, well, I got a hammer, I got a bell, I got a song to sing all over this land. It's the hammer of justice, it's the bell of freedom, it's a song about love between my brothers and sisters all over this land. Just one of those songs that you feel will probably be still played in 100 years, just because of how timeless the content of it is, and how many different types of movements could kind of use this as a theme, so to speak, man. So not much more to add to that, other than it's a classic, and Peter, Paul, and Mary crushed it. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for number 1 on this list. What is it going to be? It's going to be an absolute classic, I'll tell you what. It's going to be their version of Blowin' in the Wind. Came out in 1963, of course, originally by the great Robert Zimmerman, aka Bob Dylan. Dee notes this version of Bob Dylan's classic gave the song a more gentle feel than the original, with the same message. Their beautiful harmonies and slight melody changes made the song more accessible to pop audiences. This, along with a couple other covers of Dylan songs, helped him reach a larger audience. It was the lead single, sold a phenomenal 300,000 copies in the first week of its release, went to 2 in the US, and sold over 1 million copies in general. Grammy win for Best Folk Recording and Best Performance by a Vocal Group. They released the song 3 weeks after the Free Will and Bob Dylan was issued. Albert Grossman, then managing both Dylan and Peter, Paul, and Mary, brought the trio the song, which they recorded on a single take and released it. Love the Free Will and Bob Dylan. It's one of my favorite records of Bob's, and honestly favorite records of the 60s in general. And obviously Blowin' in the Wind is a bona fide classic, and I'm curious to hear how Peter, Paul, and Mary change it up just a little bit here. And afterwards, I will give my thoughts on this and my favorite tracks in general. So let's get after it. Blowin' in the Wind, bringing us home here, ladies and gentlemen. Just what an iconic tune. Obviously, these lyrics still hold up all these years later. We're almost 60 years since this song was released, just about. And I did really enjoy what Peter, Paul, and Mary did to this arrangement. As Dee noted, made it a bit more accessible, a bit more poppy, and I don't say that in a negative context whatsoever. Just a bit sweeter Peter in this delivery, which, for a song like this, that's, so thought-provoking, I thought that was well done. And, kind of, you suck the people in with the pretty sound, the gorgeous harmonies that we had yet again. And then after they listen to it a few times, get them really thinking. And just for the songwriting itself, Bob's such a master lyricist, man. I love how all the verses are just questions, and then we get to obviously the refrain where here Peter, Paul, and Mary all came in at once. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. I won't go down and detail all the questions that are asked. Some of my favorites are how many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry? I like the how many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? Especially in this civil rights era at the time, man. I'm sure that hit home for many. How many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? So many lovely questions, and that just get the mind turning, if you will, and just being so familiar with the Bob version, I think Peter, Paul, and Mary crushed it and put their own flavor on it. This is how a cover, I think, should be done. You bring what makes you great as an artist, and you take bits from the original and you blend it together, and hopefully something as good as this comes out, man. So that'll take us now to my favorite tracks, which is gonna be tough, man. I added a lot of these to my favorited list on Spotify. I added 7 of them, so it was an unbelievable list by D. Shout out to you, man, for putting this together and educating all the people like me who didn't know much about Peter, Paul, and Mary, and hopefully taking a good trip down memory lane for those that already did. So I'll just go in order of when they appeared. I got Where Have All the Flowers Gone? I love the songwriting in that one, how it was like a cycle. Pop the Magic Dragon, of course, got to give the shout out to. Leaving on a Jet Plane, they crushed that. The Great Mandela, what an anti-war song and story right there. That's right up there with my favorites. And then of course our final 2, If I Had a Hammer, and the cover of Blowin in the Wind, man. Just wrapping up here, I think whenever you hear Peter, Paul, and Mary, man, those harmonies are gonna be what stick with you. But whenever you look a little bit deeper, I think you're gonna find that tremendous lyricism. I think you're gonna find just some versatility here in sounds. We, a lot of our songs just were in that folk vein with the acoustic, but I mean, a track like I Dig Rock and Roll Music is totally in left field, or El Salvador. It's really interesting to go through these top 10s from when you get a flavor from all the different eras of the group, man. So all in all, man, lovely voices, lovely songs, and just timeless music, man. I'm gonna go back to that timeless music that holds up all these decades later. So thank you again to D. Be sure to show him some love in the comments for suggesting this for us today. Let me know as well your favorites from this list and any of your favorites that didn't quite make the cut. And at the end of this video, there will be a link to some other videos you might like. We actually did the full track-by-track review of the Free Will and Bob Dylan, if you'd like to check that out. And then be sure to hit that big red subscribe button if you want to see more that helps us out. And if you'd like to support the channel like D and have us do a top 10 list or even just a song reaction for you, you can check out our Patreon page, which is linked in the description, and will also be here up on the screen in a few seconds. But until next time, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Happy listening, and I will see you.